Hello, everybody out there in radio land, and hello, everybody that's listening online. If you are online right now, please make sure that you hit the like, you hit the share button, and you get this message out there. And here's the deal: we need to have the important conversations about so many things that are going on in our nation and around the world. We must reassess our own focus as not just individuals, but as how we fit in the collective whole of our nation and of the future. Because what we see right now and the direction that our country is going might be a little overwhelming for a lot of people, and we see people that get upset with political parties or stuff like that. And a lot of what it is that we as a nation have gotten away from our foundational values. We have lost the focus on building up our nation and our citizens. And we have to return to that. We were called the Great American Experiment, and I don't want the experiment of America to fail. So we must be the ones that chart the course to the future, that actually push to make a difference, because if we don't, nobody else will. We are the remnant. We are those with good thoughts and good minds that are sound of body to actually push forward to make a difference. Now, as we have these conversations, drop a comment in the comments, and we'll do our best to pop your comment up on the screen while we're going through stuff. Hit the like button, hit the share, and drop a heart or a thumbs up in the comments, or just say hi. Everything helps actually kick the algorithm to get it out to more people. As we talk about the direction our nation is going, and how many people are upset about what they're seeing on a day-to-day basis, I myself am a proud Republican, but I know that some of you guys that listen are Democrats. And the fact of the matter is if you are an American, an actual American citizen, we should be driving forward for our country. It's not about party. I see too much teamification, I like to call it, where it's red versus blue, Democrat versus Republican, this versus that. And you know who never comes into the conversation? The American people. What is best for the American people? And that's what we as a country need to be talking about. So hit that like button. We need to be talking about what is best for our citizens. Who's talking about that? I want to know. In Congress, in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, who's talking about what's best for our American citizens? The people in there are very few and far between, no matter what party side that you're on. There's only about, 10 people that I like that are halfway decent out of all of Congress. Was it 451 of them altogether or something crazy like that? Like, everybody in there is totally lost the plot. Okay? What we've ended up with is people that are in elected positions from the town level all the way up through Congress that have lost sight of the American people that they are supposed to represent. This is never as evident as what we have seen in the last year or so, where they have pushed this whole concept that we need to now be the world's refugee camp. In New York State, where I live, over the last couple of weeks, it has been direly cold. Last night, it was -6 degrees real temperature Fahrenheit. Not wind chill, not nothing. Wind chill was like -30. Like, Alaska sent us their weather, and I want to send it back. Okay? That's what's going on here. We've got people outside freezing in the streets, people needing to get their limbs amputated and stuff because they've got frostbite and so forth. And we're talking about other people from other countries that we need to prioritize. How is that? We've got a standard in which we have an educational system that on scale is not as good as it used to be, not producing the number of, what would you call them, productive members of society that we need. So we have things here internally that we have to focus on for the betterment of our own citizens, for the betterment of our own nation. And let's be honest, what's good for American citizens is good for any immigrant that wants to come over here legally. But in order to actually address the issues that we have as a nation, we cannot afford to bring in all of these foreigners and all of these illegal aliens. I said both foreigners and illegal aliens because they're two different classes. Okay, you've got the illegal aliens that are not coming here the right way. You got the other foreigners that are coming here the right way. But the fact of the matter is both groups are taking away from American citizens. And that's not good. That's not benefiting us. How is that benefiting us? No foreigner is coming to America to say, I want to help benefit the American people. No, they're like, I want a better life for myself. So who's out here saying, I want to benefit the American people? That's what's going on. We need to benefit our country, our countrymen. We have to prioritize us because they've prioritized themselves by coming to our country. Because if they weren't prioritizing themselves to come to our country, they would not be here. Let's be very clear on that. And it's only because our country is so much better than so many other nations across the world that they feel comfortable coming here. Because they'll have greater access to possible economic prosperity. Or maybe they're fleeing persecution from one issue or another, whether it's political or religious. Maybe they've been pushing back against different things that are going on in their government and they don't like it and the government is after them. So we have to, as American citizens, say, hey, pump the brakes. We need to focus on our citizens and what's going on here. And one of the best examples that we can have and we can give out is what we just saw happen at the Olympics. And I had to have a conversation with somebody about this because I was like, those people that were at the Olympics dragging our country like dogs shouldn't be there. They should be removed from the American team if they don't want to stand up for the United States of America. The simple fact of the matter is I love my country. Okay. You can call me General America. Okay. I love my country. Nobody can tell me anything wrong about my country. I am not very fond of my government, nor should any of you be. Because, no matter how many times somebody will tell you, oh, the government would never do that. Oh, yes, they would. And this is what we have to understand. Us as a people are separate from the government. And the government itself, which is supposed to represent us, has become more and more separate from the people. That's a separate conversation, but we'll come back to that momentarily. As we talk about what happened at the Olympics, did you see them? We've got these people who are supposed to be representing America, dogging America. How dare they? The whole audacity of them. None of them should be on Team America. All of Team America should have pulled from the whole Olympics. Anybody that feels that way. I'm glad that you have a voice to speak, to say that that's how you feel. You should not be representing our nation because you're getting on the world stage, supposed to be representing us, making us look bad. We are perfectly capable of making ourselves look bad as it is. We're America, duh. Like, we don't need your help to go talk bad about us to other countries across the world, which are your personal feelings. But you're saying when you stand up there representing Team USA is what you're saying is representative of America. So if you cared that much to tell all these foreigners in a foreign country how much you don't like America, why don't you stay there? Stay there. Take off the jacket, give up your passport, stay over there. Don't even bother coming back. If it was up to me, I'd exile them. They'd never be able to return to America. But a friend of mine was telling me, they said, hey, let's look at things for the way that they are. In a lot of European countries right now, they're trying to silence everybody. We've talked about this on the show. They're trying to silence everybody and censor everybody. Even if you just share a meme in England, they will arrest you for sharing a meme. Not for creating the meme, for sharing it. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, you're arresting people for sharing memes and stuff like that? That's bananas. And it's happening in other countries all across and throughout Europe. And we already know if somebody from China got up on a stage and wanted to talk junk about China, they would be misappeared, right? Disappeared and missing at the same time. We know that if that happened to Russia, like they would not make it home. Like this is real serious business. So the point that they were making to me, they were saying, it just shows how great a nation that we are, that we have the Constitution, that people have freedom of speech, that they can share their thoughts like that, even if we disagree. And that's something that I understand, and it made me really have to rethink my thoughts on the matter. I still don't like it. I still think that they should be exiled, and I still think that the US should pull anybody out that wants to speak like that. But the fact of the matter is, it is an amazing thing that our people can speak like that or feel that they can share those types of opinions. And that is something that is very, very, very interesting because you don't have that from any other countries. It's just non-existent. And we need to be very thankful that we have our country the way that it is, because people in other countries can't voice their opinions. They can't talk about what they think. They can't talk about what they believe. Amen. Somebody says, God, heal this nation and rid us of evil, right? Now we've got, let's see, somebody just said, I give you the first like. Thank you very much, Julietta, for giving us the first like. Appreciate that. So please comment, drop some comments, drop some thumbs up, all the thumbs up and hearts. Even if you just say hi in the comments, all of that helps. So whereas there are people who don't necessarily like who the president is now, I don't know that I've liked the president in my lifetime. This one I don't dislike, the one that's in there now. I like most of the policies, almost every policy, but not all the policies. Somebody pointed out, a friend of mine, similar-minded individual, pointed out to me yesterday that there is a new thing in the Department of Energy, not energy, but the EPA. So the Environmental Protection Agency, where they just, I see some flags out there. Thank you for the flags. Drop some flags, drop some thumbs up. Where the EPA made it so that one of the pesticides is able to be used again. Now, I don't know very much about the pesticide specifically, or that even happened, but he brought that to my attention. He said, you know what? I'm going to call the EPA about them reauthorizing the use of this pesticide. And that is civic engagement. I don't know much about it, and I told him I'm going to go do some research on it because I don't know anything about that specific chemical compound, or if there are other alternatives, or if there are things that are better, or what the situation is. But that's the type of civic activity that is important. Redressing your grievances with your government, expressing the issues that you want to be addressed with the government, in a reasonable manner. Unfortunately, there are too many people who want to get out here and act a full fool in the middle of the street, or go all rah-rah, and then what happens? Nothing happens. We lose autonomy. We lose individual liberties. We lose our security and safety as individuals. So everything right now is pushing us more and more towards a surveillance state. We had Mandani, the new socialist Muslim mayor of New York City, talk about we need to get rid of individual liberty and bring on warm collectivism. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. Because what you're talking about is empowering the government. I don't want to empower the government. I want to take power away from the government. Like, you guys are kind of crazy. We have so much going on in our country right now that is marching us further and further to a surveillance state, but people don't even see it because so many people are focused on the president. Y'all focus so much on the president, you can't tell your butthole from your elbow. Why are you like that? This is the thing. We have a president that makes a good bad guy. And if you don't like Trump, you should already know that. He's a perfect scapegoat, a perfect bad guy. Every time he does anything, he's the worst person in the world. So if that's the case, then why are you surprised at anything that he does? Why do you think the news media and everybody else, like especially the Democrats in the Congress, want you to be focused on Trump? They're not telling you to be focused on other things in Congress that are going on. They're not telling you to be focused on congressional Republicans. They're telling you to be focused on the president. The president doesn't even have that much authority. So why do they want you not looking in the one branch of government that makes the laws and does the budget? Why don't they want you looking at them? And here's the bigger thing. Locally, we see this happen in Democrat-run areas. The Democrats in local cities and towns are like, oh, Trump this, Trump that, da 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 da. What? Trump what? Bro, I just want you to make sure that my streets are plowed. I want you to make sure that we have quality education in our schools. Like, I want you to make sure that we go outside, walk down the street, and don't get stabbed by mistake. By mistake, you know? Like, this is what I want. What does anything that a city council person has to do or a town council person has to do with the president? Nothing. You're using him as a scapegoat, as an excuse. So none of us look at you to say, oh, well, maybe you should address this issue. How about you address the issues that are going on locally with housing development, where we just put up all of these new units talking about, oh, it's affordable housing, but each unit costs $420,000 to build one unit. And we're talking about single apartments, like one-bedroom apartments and studios are costing us $420,000 to build. What are we doing? Where is that money going? But no, they want you to be focused on Trump. This is something that's very, very, very concerning. We need to have these conversations. And nobody is having those conversations because they want you to be distracted by the president. And that's how it always is. They always want you to be distracted by the president, no matter who's in the presidency, because the president doesn't even really hold that much power. It is Congress. And that's what I try to get across to people. Almost 90% of the issues that we face in life every day have literally next to nothing to do with the president. You understand what I'm saying? I want to make sure that the roads aren't filled with potholes in here. As soon as the snow goes away, the roads are going to be terrible like they always are. You know, like I want to make sure that the basic everyday issues are addressed. Basic public safety, basic economic development here on the city level, here on the county level. None of that has to do with the federal government. Stop telling me about Trump and making some distraction about him. Okay, the president can only do some executive orders, do some stuff as far as charting a strategic course for international affairs, and maybe engage in foreign, I don't know what you call them, conflicts or something like that. And you can't even, you got to do limited military engagements, stuff like that. You can't do like full-scale conflicts if you're president unilaterally. It's very difficult because of the way that they've taken power away from the president, which I don't agree with, because the title of the president is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. But that's a whole separate conversation that we're not quite having yet. And this is important. This is very, very, very important. Somebody says that they're watching us from in front of the New York State Assembly right now. If you guys don't know, we're in New York State, and our state assembly has done everything that they can do to railroad us every which way. One of the big issues that we have right now in our area is energy. And the energy prices, they'll try to blame on the energy services, like we have RG&E, other places have NISAG. I don't know if Con Ed is still around, but they blame it on the energy companies. It's got nothing to do with the energy companies. The energy companies have their own issues, like some have billing issues, some have customer service issues. Here in Rochester, they kind of got both. But the issue and the problem isn't that they have those issues. The issue is that the state assembly and the state senate have passed all these laws shutting down energy production facilities. They've shut down nuclear power plants. They've shut down natural gas power plants. Now, mind you, we get over 70% of our energy from natural gas. Right now, I think it's down to 54%. But now they've shut down so many natural gas plants that we can't even produce enough energy for our state in our state. So now we have to buy it from Canada. Never in the history of New York State has that happened, but now it is. And they're celebrating it like it's okay. They were out there celebrating. Our state assembly, my state assembly member, okay, Damon Meeks, was out there a couple months ago with the rest of his collective caucus out there celebrating shutting down pipeline projects. How are you celebrating that? And now the gas and electric costs are crazy. But that's because of their policies. And who do they distract you with? They distract you with the president. Somebody says it's a globalist agenda. You're absolutely right. It is a globalist agenda. It absolutely is a globalist agenda. What it is it's the agenda to make it so that we as individuals have to rely more and more on the government and those in power. Because if they can disempower us and empower the government, then they have more control over we, the people. And that's what I want to talk about, because we see all of these people out here. Somebody said Virginia is doing redistricting. Oh, I just don't. I'd like to talk about Virginia. I don't even know if I have enough time to talk about the craziness going on in Virginia right now. Virginia needs its whole own episode. I might do an episode on what's going on in Virginia later this week. So check for that on my website. If you are on my YouTube, if you guys are watching to us online, please subscribe, hit like, follow, share. And if you are on YouTube, make sure you go to my YouTube page. It's the Marcus C. Williams channel. Follow me there, subscribe there, and hit the notification bell. That way you'll get the other shows that I do that aren't The Divide. You'll get those videos too. So yeah, so let's get back to it. So talking about this agenda that's being pushed, like we were talking about how these people call themselves socialists and they call themselves communists and they call themselves Marxists and they call themselves all of these different things, or democratic socialists or social democrats. They call themselves all of these things when all of their policies are driving towards greater government control. Now, that does not exonerate the Republicans, because a lot of them are pushing similar things, and I don't like it. I just saw Janine Pirro. She's a U.S. attorney. I don't know what portion she's in. I think she's in the District of D.C. I don't know how that really works out, though. But I saw her on the news talking about if you come into D.C. with a firearm, even if you've got a permit in another state, you're going to jail and they're taking the gun from you and you'll be lucky to get your gun back. Excuse me? What do you mean? Do you know how un-American that is? Like, what are you even talking about? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy that she would say that. Now, this is a Republican, mind you. How can you say that you're going to infringe upon people's Second Amendments? So when I tell you that it's coming from both sides, this is why, I see you, Clint, I'll pop yours up in a second. This is why we need to focus on values and principles, not on these elected officials. Y'all get tied up too much on them trying to distract you with nonsense. Our Bill of Rights is continuing to be compromised more and more. Let's talk about these body cameras for ICE that they want. But real quick, you guys are listening to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. You're listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. And you can go to the Patreon for the station, Rochester Free Radio, and you can donate to the station right there like that. Help support the show. And if you're online, you can check out either side over here of how to support the show, or you can check out down below if you're vertical. Okay? So we have a lot of stuff going on right now that's not being talked about. And one of the things is, somebody said it's called, what are you calling it? Loxism. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. So we have right now these people that are pushing for all these body cameras on ICE, right? Okay, and people are like, yeah, the police should have more body cameras, this and that. It's going to stop abuses and this, that, and the third, da, 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 da. I watched the videos. of these people that end up on the internet that they record, that other third parties record. And these people out here, like we'll take Minnesota for an example, they're acting a raw riot. They're acting way out of sorts. And that's a serious problem. But we can't even talk about that because their behavior is warranting a behind whooping. You know, like they're acting a rabid fool and don't expect to get dealt with. You know, you're yelling in people's faces, you're blowing whistles in people's faces. Okay, you're interfering with their progress and impeding their investigations and what they've got going on. I don't do that. Do you know why? Because one, I don't want to get tuned up by anybody that's in any type of police or military branch, because to do it, it has to be something really serious and worth doing. To do it for illegal aliens, that ain't it, y'all. That ain't it. But more so than that, I'm also not a ICE agent or a police officer, because I wouldn't want to deal with these crazy cockamamie idiots out here. You know what I'm saying? I'd be done ready to bust one of them upside the head. You blowing a whistle in my ear, I'm gonna put the whistle down your throat. Like, what are we talking about? Nowhere in social society would that be acceptable. If somebody did that to me in the street, just as being a general human being, it's gonna be fisticuffs. I'm gonna feel threatened. Okay? Like, I would believe that you were trying to ruin my hearing and impede my way of life. So I would make sure that you could no longer do that. So when I see them do that to these different agents and stuff like that, I'm like, these agents have a lot of resilience and a lot of restraint. I don't know that I would be able to have that. I might be a bit of a liability. They might have lawsuits on lawsuits, okay, because of that. So I don't want to put myself in that position, and none of these crazy fools out here really care, because what's going on is that a lot of them are being paid. But let's be honest, getting back into the fact that they're trying to push these body cameras, right? And people are like, oh, the body cameras are a good thing. Okay, maybe the body cameras can help to an extent, but they're going to increase the amount of surveillance that now the government is collecting on individuals. They're going to be collecting cars. They're going to be collecting faces. They're going to be collecting the way you walk. They're going to be collecting all of these things that these people put out that they're trying to avoid. That's why these crazy anti-ICE protesters wear these ridiculous animal suits. That's why they cover their face. That's why they leave their cell phones at home. That's why they've got this whole protocol that they've set up so that it's more difficult for the police to identify who they are. Now, you ask me, they're domestic terrorists and they all need to be in prison, okay? Because they're not out here peacefully protesting. They're creating destabilizing acts in society. But that being said, do you guys know who Alex Krepp is? The CEO of Palantir. Do you know what Palantir is? I encourage you to look it up when you get a chance. So he is this massive surveillance guy, right? So he's got this huge company that does nothing but data surveillance, data monitoring, and data collection and profiling of people. Okay, he also has they do a whole bunch with drones, right? And the last person that you want to have a whole bunch of data on you is somebody that does a whole bunch of things with military drones. Because they will find you and you might not, you know what I'm saying? So, but this guy got on the TV and he was like, yeah, all the anti-ICE protesters should be supporting the further integration of Palantir into the government and their software and their surveillance and stuff. Are you crazy? They should support that? Are you crazy? So I need you to listen to this man that is all about surveillance, telling people that it's a good thing for them to have these extra body cameras and that he wants to integrate all of his biometric scanning into this surveillance network. Is that what you guys really want? Aren't these anti-ICE protesters always out there talking about, we don't want fascism, we don't like this, we don't like this. Oh, it's the Nazis. But you're pushing for further mass surveillance. Is that what we're doing? And now this goes into things with Republicans are supporting these body cameras too. I'm not with it. I'm not with it because you're stripping away sovereignty and there's no Fourth Amendment due process here. It's worse than a dragnet or a what do you call it? What's the thing called? Stingray, where it collects all of the cell phone data in a certain area. Like these are things that we know about, right? Like there's other technologies that that the NSA and FBI and things have access to that we have no clue even conceptually about. But the things that we know, we should be being very attentive to. But that's not happening. That's not happening at all. Hit the like button, hit the share button, drop a comment. I'll try to pop them up there. So when we see the continued march of surveillance, whether it's coming from the right or from the left, we need to stop. Okay, we need to stop. We need to take a beat and we need to say, hey, is this really going in the right direction? I'm telling you right now, it's definitely not. Not even a little bit. So somebody says, oh, ID, this is funny. You're going to like this, you guys. IDs are racist, but biometric scanning in your everyday life, well, that's just good for you. Yeah, this is what these people are selling you. They want more surveillance. They want more biometric data tracking, but they're also the same ones that'll tell you, no, you shouldn't have an ID to vote. How does that work, you guys? Like you shouldn't have to have an ID to vote, but you want massive surveillance that is identifying you all the time? How can you reconcile that if that's what you believe? Can somebody make that make sense? Make that make sense to me in the comments, you guys. Drop some comments on that. Make that make sense to me because it makes no sense whatsoever. It's a really serious problem. Somebody says, who's this? Is this Clint? Is that you? Clint says, Adam Carolla, can't stand that guy. He used to be all right, though. Suggests that we treat cops like dudes with guns. What's it say? You wouldn't go up to a dude with a gun and start cursing him out, spitting on him, and punching him in the face, etc. Simply treat them like dudes with guns and you'll be fine. That is very good advice. You said that came from Adam Carolla? Like the guy that used to be on the Man Show with that other guy who's a leftist comedian now? Is that Adam Carolla? Or is that a different guy? I haven't heard anything from him for a while. Or I might be thinking of the other Adam Carolla. So anyway, somebody says traffic cameras are the ones you should be worried about. They're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, if you're just new to this channel, please hit subscribe and follow. But I've talked about the traffic cameras before. I've talked about these. Now instead of like they used to have these little ropes that they put on the street to monitor speed and to test for a number of cars that came through. So they would do that for a project like a, what do you call it? Infrastructure analysis or whatever the case is. And now they've got these cameras. And they started this maybe 2 years ago. And I was warning people, I'm like, listen, this is a very serious surveillance issue. And everybody's like, oh, no, it's not a problem or this or that or the third. And I'm like, yeah, it's a problem. And the fact that you're comfortable with it means that they're going to continue to expand these types of things. And people are like, oh, no, it's not an issue. Oh, well, yeah, now you're starting to see that it's an issue, that there's too many cameras. We got over like 500 cameras in our city that are networked by the police and the city and all of this and all of that. I think the official number is like 350 something or something like that. But it's near 500. You know what I'm saying? And we're not a huge city. So we need to have these conversations and we need to start putting frameworks in place that prevent this surveillance type of stuff from being used against our citizens. It's mass surveillance, mass data collection. And we've got people out here that are screaming about due process for illegal aliens. What about due process for us as civilians, as citizens of this nation, when it comes to our privacy? And then you'll have these crackpots that'll say, oh, well, if you're in public, you don't have any expectation of privacy. Well, I don't have any expectation of a pickpocket either. You understand what I'm saying? But when somebody is taking all your biometric data, that's exactly what it is. It's like a pickpocket coming up to you and taking your wallet out your pocket with your money in it. So these are the conversations that we need to have, the things we need to talk about, because while they've got you all distracted looking at Trump, looking over here, looking over there, we've got Republicans saying, yeah, they should put on body cameras. We've got Democrats saying, yeah, they should put on body cameras. We got both sides of the same coin talking about the same thing, and that it's good for us. It is not good for us, people. It's not. Stop buying what the government is selling you. Okay? I'm trying to tell you, trying to let you know. What is say? Trying to put you on game for free 99. But if you want to support the show, check out either, if you're horizontal, check out the sides right there. You can see how to support the show. Or if you're vertical, check out down below. You can see how to support the show. If you're listening to the radio, you can go to Patreon and donate on Rochester Free Radio. Okay? But you got to make sure that we're having these important conversations, and the surveillance conversation right now is very, very important to have. So the more we talk about this, the more people that get informed. People will say, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know this, you don't know that. Listen, let me tell you something right now. On this show, I say a couple of things over and over and over again. First thing I say all the time is, don't believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me because I'm telling you. Telling you means that I am going out of my way. I am committing to what I said, and I am telling you as it is a affirmative situation. So I'm never going to tell you something that I am not 99.9% sure of. Okay, maybe I might give you something that I'm 95% sure of. Okay, and that just gives out issues that might come from unseen factors, you know. But if I'm telling you, I always tell people, go look it up, go look into it, and don't just do a 5-second search and think that you're going to find all the information. Really, really dig down, because a lot of the conversations are very surface level, like the voter ID with the SAVE Act. Let's talk about the SAVE Act, because somebody was talking about the voter ID a couple moments ago. So let's talk about the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is designed so that it's allegedly supposed to make it so that you have to show your ID, because everybody's in favor of voter ID. Like 86% of Republicans, 75% of Democrats. We're in like the high 70s, low 80s of American people who believe that we should have to show ID to verify who we are. And the SAVE Act is supposed to address that, because there's so much malfeasance going on in state election systems. Okay? And people say, oh, well, there's no fraud. Well, yes, there is. There's plenty of fraud, election fraud going on throughout the nation. The Democrats used to say, oh, there's no fraud at all. There's nothing. Now they've gone from there's no fraud to, oh, well, there's not that much fraud. So now they're singing a different song. Oh, there's no widespread fraud. I'm sure you've heard that one 1,000 times. There's no widespread fraud. Any fraud in the election system is too much. What are you talking about? There's no widespread fraud. How do you even know if you don't want to look into it? Here where I am, I'll give you an example. Where I live in my county and in my state, because the Board of Elections on the state level is the ones who really control this, they only check after the election 3% of 3% of the receipts. Take your calculator, do 3% of 3% in math. That's not even 1% of the total. What the heck even is 3% of 3%? That's nonsense. You'd never find any if you found discrepancies in 3% of 3%, that's a miracle in and of itself. Because just statistically, you wouldn't have enough information or enough data to be able to prove that. But they say, oh, well, if we do 3% of 3% and we see that something might be more, something's not quite right, we'll expand it. No, I want you to start out with it expanded. I mean, shoot, at least do 3% of the total, you know? Like, I prefer to bump it up to a flat 5%. But they don't do that. So how will we ever know And I know that there are dead people on the voter roll, so how would you even know? I know that there are dead people on the voter rolls and it says that they have voted. So how would you know? I know people that aren't in the country legally that have voted. So what do you mean that this stuff isn't happening? So this is my personal knowledge that I know personally in the real world. And I'm sure that many other people across the country have seen, heard, and experienced similar things. Like, I can't tell you that there's fraud all across the country in every single facet of every single thing, but you only need a very small amount of votes to turn a whole election. And people are concerned. So why are we not going through and checking that out? Right? Why are people trying to hinder us from checking that out? Now, the SAVE Act is supposed to prevent illegal aliens from being able to vote, right? Only citizens should vote. I'm all for that, okay? I'm all for that. Here's the deal. The SAVE Act also basically federalizes elections. I'm not for that. I am not for that. However, I live in New York State, and these people are terrible, atrocious individuals. So what can I say? You know, I'm kind of like caught between a rock and a hard place. So while I support voter ID, I don't support the federalization of elections. However, the votes and the tallies and stuff are supposed to be held for their integrity. And if the federal government wants to come and look and inspect them, they should be able to do that. So what we just saw in them being delayed for the last couple of years of being able to get access to vote results and vote tallies and to have them gone through in different places across the country, including Arizona and Maricopa County and other parts of Georgia and stuff like that, when we see that they're not willing to show and produce their voter records and their voter data, when it comes to that, you have to ask yourself, well, what is the need to hide? Why wouldn't you just provide that information? You know, and then people will be like, oh, well, it's anonymity. Anonymity from what? Based on regulations, anybody can go get voter registration data. So why are you denying the federal government the information that is so readily available? Right? So why? Because they actually want to see images of ballots now. They actually want to see the actual paper ballots, if you have one. They actually want to see the receipts. And that's the problem. They don't want them to get that level of information. And you have to look at things and you have to ask yourself, well, why wouldn't they want them to have that level of information? There must be something going on there. There must be something going on there. And that's something that we need to have a conversation about. We really, really do. AJ says, well, if you're a Democrat and you're not for voter ID or federalized elections, that's a red flag. Democrats cheat in every election, even against other Democrats. So I live in New York State, and I know that that's true for a fact, because for most of my life, almost every year, Democrats are suing other Democrats in my county about election results. There was a period of like 10 years where it was almost every single race that the Democrats were suing other Democrats, you know, but that changes based on how the power structure is, and the power structures and who's in actual power in our county has been changing and stuff like that. But it's very, very interesting. So no, I'm not for federalizing elections. Yes, I am for voter ID. And yes, the voter images and the files and stuff like that need to be maintained, and they need to be able to be openly gone through. And they said, oh, well, maybe somebody will be able to see who somebody's voting for. I don't care. Like, I know that could cause possible issues, but I also know that I don't trust our election system. Why would I? How could I? The government lies so much. The government lies so much. Like, I don't understand. And I don't care whether it's Republican or Democrat or whatever. Okay. And I'm not a play both sides person. I'm a stand on the constitutional values, stand on the foundational values, stand on traditional values, stand on conservative values, and stand on what the Republican Party is supposed to be about. And whenever somebody that's in the Republican Party ain't on code, they are not on doing what they supposed to, and or the policy ain't right, I'm gonna be on it. I'm gonna be on it. That's why I respect Thomas Massey so much. And you got Trump out there trying to be like, oh, Thomas Massey is terrible. Well, how is Thomas Massey terrible? He's standing on business. At least somebody in Congress is standing on business. All these other clowns out here just whiffle waffle in the wind anyway. You know, another one that's a really notable individual is Tim Burchett. I love Tim Burchett. I don't always agree with a lot of his votes, but he at least explains why he votes different ways and stuff like that. So for me, he's legit. You know, check him out. There's a couple of other ones that are pretty decent or all right. Kat McCormick, I like her. What's her name? Senator Marsha Blackburn, love her. Okay, we got Chip Roy. I like him 90% of the time. Okay, he's mostly on point. You know, but we got all these other people out there that are complete trash. Like I said, most of Congress is garbage. And they need to be taken out with the trash. But it's up to us to use our discernment and to stand on principles and values, not on emotionality, not on this new social gospel nonsense that's out there in society. Oh, be nice, help everybody, do this, do that. Love is love. Get a slap. Get a whole slap. Love is love. You don't know what love is. Okay? You just want everybody not to be loving. You want everybody to accept all types of deviance, depravity, and stuff that nobody should accept. Okay? That is not natural, that is unnatural, and that is counterproductive to our society. So anybody that says love is love, you already know that's a red flag. Okay? Dead giveaway. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy what we're experiencing. And these people don't stand on their values. Like I was pointing out earlier, they don't stand against fascism. These are the same people that a couple years ago were turning in their neighbors for having more than 2 people at Thanksgiving. These are the people who are now taking their children out in violent protests. That's terrorist activity. Okay, what are you doing? Why are you taking children to a situation like that? Why would you do that? Like, you're a monster, you know? Like, this is a very serious, serious problem. So as we have these conversations, we have to remember, this is stuff that people don't want to talk about, you know? And I really hate the teamification nature of the direction that our nation is going, because it takes away the fact that the government is part of the problem. You know, you got the left that want to say, oh, well, it's the greed and of the ultra wealthy. Maybe some of it is, but a lot of it has to do with poor policy. Look at Virginia. Whoever mentioned Virginia, just give me a thumbs up if you were the one that mentioned Virginia earlier. Look at Virginia. They're trying to raise taxes out the wazoo. I was watching this lady talking the other day. She's a raving Democrat. And she was like, oh, we voted for this lady. Now she's trying to raise all our taxes. And she was talking about she was going to lower prices, this, that, and the third, da, 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 da. It kind of makes me not want to be a Democrat. I said, you voted for her. And all of these crazy promises that she made, where did you think the money was going to come from for them? Where did you think the money was going to come from for them? You've got Mondani in New York City right now talking about he's working with Kathy Hochul to raise the taxes on New York State businesses and on New York State citizens. Hello, are you there? Maybe I need to tap this microphone, make sure. Tap, testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Am I coming through clearly? You get what I'm saying? Like, this is these people. What is going on? You don't see and understand that in order to expand the government, in order for the government to provide more services, that they have to tax you more heavily. This is one of the problems that Japan has, why they don't have enough growth in Japan. This is why they don't have enough babies in Japan, because they tax out the wazoo. I love Japan, and I know many of you guys that are listening love Japan too, okay? Mostly for the culture, some for the related artistry and anime and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is They tax their citizens so crazy, it's difficult to have a family. And their culture is do nothing but work, work, work 24/7. You know, then you go look at another country like China, and they're trying to be like, oh, look at all the great stuff and the great growth in China and all of these major cities and all of that. Aren't you guys the same people that tells me that China has billions of people and you only focus on like one city and the majority of the population of China is rural? Okay. Like, are we being serious right now? Can we have that conversation? No. And they worked it. What was somebody drop it in the comments. What is the work ethic thing that China has? It's set. Is it 676 or whatever the case is? Or maybe it's 1276. I forget what it is. But essentially, it's the whole thing is about working basically 6 days a week, all day of the week. Like, it's crazy. Like, and that's what they pushed for years. And then again, you look at their population. They had the one-child policy, but now they've boosted it up to 2. But people can't afford 2 children. Okay, when you want all of these extra services from the government, the taxes have to come from you. Unless you've got some great policy of international trade or international investment where you have like a sovereign wealth fund or something like that that's investing in other things that are generating money. But we're not Saudi Arabia. Okay, we're not the United Arab Emirates. Okay, we're not, what's the other one? I forget the other one, Oman. Okay, we're not any of those countries with, Norway is a good example. We're not any one of these countries with a huge sovereign wealth fund where we can just live the life of Riley, okay, all off the money that comes off of that and get an extra subsidy from that. Okay, it's not like Alaska where you get an extra check every year from the oil that they're pumping out of Alaska. Like, this is serious. Somebody put up, and it scrolled by fast, they said taxation is unconstitutional. So I agree with you, but I also disagree with you. All taxation is theft, hard stop. However, they have made many amendments in the Constitution to make taxing legal, and I think that those should all be repealed, and anything should be raised by bonds and voluntary contributions, because I don't believe that we need the federal government for anything but the military. That's about it. Somebody said you just want free stuff. But it's true. We need to have these conversations. People want all of this free stuff, but don't realize that the money's got to come from somewhere to pay for it. I was listening to a friend of mine who has a show in the different part of the country earlier, and she was talking about how all of these mutual aid people are scandalous and trifling. She was talking about how they're just pumping money into these mutual aid networks and they don't care about anything that happens with the people that are the ones that are contributing. They don't care about them having their bank accounts shut down due to extraneous stuff that's going on with the activity and where the money's going and stuff like that. Because essentially, these mutual aid networks are nothing more than money laundering schemes, okay? Disguising themselves as helping the community. And many of the people that are involved don't even realize that that's what they're all about. But the more you listen and then listen again, the more you start to see and understand what's going on. They don't care about the people as individuals. They just want to keep the whole organization to continuously flow. And that's what they want. They want you to separate your sense of self from yourself and just be part of the collective, which means that you as an individual do not matter. You got to understand that. So that's very, 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 very important. Drop some comments, hit the like button, drop an American flag or a smiley face in the comments. Every single comment that you do helps kick the algorithm to get it out to more people. Hit the share button, okay? And if you want to support the show, check out the sides over there or check out down below. And if you're listening to the radio, you can donate by going to Patreon and go to Rochester Free Radio. So as we have this conversation about various things and stuff like that, somebody said, oh, what about firefighters and engineers and stuff like that? They don't work for free. They're not paid by the federal government. What are you talking about? Stop it. Okay, stop. So this is a serious problem. We have to understand and we have to focus locally. Here's my deal, and I'll break it down for you real simple and easy. I don't believe that the majority of the things that the federal government does need to be done. I believe that the majority of the different departments that they have need to be gone. Okay? We barely need a Department of Treasury, just a little bit. Okay, that can be scaled back. The Fed Reserve needs to be gone. The Department of Education needs to be gone. EPA gone. What do you got? Transportation, whatever, broken down. Okay, some of it is useful. Most of it's trash. We've got all these other departments. Okay, Department of State. We can keep the Department of State. We need international stuff. Okay, Department of War. We need that too. Okay, but most of the other things can go. It needs to be on the state level. The state should handle that stuff. Retirements, pensions, stuff like that. That used to all be state run. Okay, and some of it still is. But a lot of it is collapsing, and that's, again, because of mismanagement of taxpayer money. If the government can't manage the money locally, why would you want them to raise taxes and take more of your money? Hello, you know how to spend your money better than the government knows how to spend your money. That's a fact. If you work for the money, you should be able to keep all your money. They already tax you enough on everything else. They tax you on gas, they tax you on water, they tax you on air, they tax you on energy, they tax you on food, okay? They tax you on your business, they tax you when you buy something, they tax you when you sell something. They tax. Why do you need income tax? And property tax is another thing that needs to be gone, because how are you going to tell me that I can pay for something outright, I can pay for a property outright, cash in hand, legal American tender, and then you're going to tax me and make me rent the property that I own back from the government? Make that make sense. What do they call them? Allodial titles? That's the type of concept that we need for property in the United States of America. If you bought it, you own it. And you don't have to pay taxes on it. Let's be honest. You look at most of these huge companies and big different apartment developers and stuff like that, they usually pay little to no tax, especially for new developments. And then you got the other ones that are doing rehabs and rehashes and all of this other stuff that are getting taxpayer money, but then they don't pay any taxes anyway. So, I mean, it seems that everybody in the middle class and in the poverty class are all getting fleeced. You know, at least when you're in poverty, sometimes you can get government services. And I say sometimes because it depends on what state you're in. And it depends on the situation. A lot of the times it's difficult to even get any services. Don't be a man and you need some services. It's extra difficult. Okay? You can be all messed up, jacked up, and they still don't want to give you no services. And then they make it all embarrassing. They make you feel like you're something less than when you go and you try to get some information on the services or whatever they've got available that you might be able to get to help lift yourself up. Right? So the people that they do let on different social services largely are made to be permanently dependent on it. And that is a terrible thing. When I used to hire entry-level workers, I would have issues with some of the people that were on social services that had kids, because what would happen is after they get like their first or second check, then what we see happen is they get cut off of childcare immediately. Well, hold on. They just started the job. They've only got like 1 or 2 paychecks. How can they possibly have all the money for child care right now? They barely getting the money to help start making their life move forward. Why would you take that away from them? Clearly, it's set up so that you don't want them to work. So it creates this whole indentured class that has to play by the rules of the government, that has to stay in the graces of the government and do what they say. So this is a serious, serious issue. Somebody said, they make $120,000 a year and they don't get anything. I think you're referring to social services and stuff like that, if that's what you're talking about. And then if it depends on where you are, right? So he says he makes $120,000. In some jurisdictions, depending on where you are, it's actually based on your income to expense ratio. So we've got rich people out here that are getting food stamps. Let's be very, very clear. You, as John Q. Public, as Mr. I work a manufacturing job, or I work some sort of a regular every middle day management job, you might get nothing. But we've got wealthy people out here that are able to get food stamps, or at least people that we would consider to be in the socioeconomic higher classes, because it's generally based off of income versus expenses. And this is one of the big issues that we see with Section 8. So if Section 8, you've got Section 8 in my city, okay, you've only able to get certain properties that you can be in or whatever, but Section 8 is something that you can take nationwide. You can go down to Georgia in a nice area and get a really nice house and be on Section 8 down there, living it up, because Section 8 is based on the amount of the price of the housing stock in the area. So that's kind of crazy to me how that works. And that's not me giving a rebuke of Section 8. That's just showing how a lot of these things are structured. And you really got to know the ins and outs of how you can actually maximize your own potential with the services that the government has without actually being left down on the ground. I'll put you guys on a little bit of game that I never knew. Some Jew guy gave me this information. He put me on this. Okay. So he was like, if you have Section 8, you can actually use that to pay your mortgage. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I was like, thank you, guy. I appreciate that information, So that's a whole nother situation. There are ways to get around different things to use these services to maximize your potential, but we're never taught how to use the system so we can actually succeed. Because the system itself is generally structured so that if you're not in the know, you can't succeed. Not more than where you are right now in life. So that's crazy. It's really, 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 really crazy. And it's a problem. And we have to pay a lot more attention to what's going on. Okay? Now, as we talk about this, I want to quick change the subject because I want to talk about a couple of more things before we get out of here today. I want to talk about the NFL Super Bowl, not the game itself, but the whole thing about the whole thing with Bad Bunny being the entertainment or whatever. I don't care that he sung in Spanish or that he's anti-American. I do, but I don't, because I can't get past the fact that he's antichrist. He's out there singing about debauchery, lechery, okay? He's out there singing about everything that's anti-Christian. And people are like, oh, yes, he represents Puerto Rico. He represents Puerto Rico so well. No, he doesn't. He's like these clowns out there with black faces that are in the music industry that are like, shoot, kill, do drugs, have sex, all of this nonsense. That's the same stuff that he's talking about. That's the same stuff he's talking about. That is not a good representation of Puerto Rico. Okay? Like, how can you say, oh, he's representing Puerto Rico good? If that's the representation, I'm glad that doesn't represent me. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's the same way that these other folks out here that are out there like in the rap industry and stuff like that put out all this crazy, lewd, lascivious type of music, talking about whoring around, talking about being harlots, okay? Talking about all of this other stuff, none of it constructive, and all of it against the Bible. All of it against the Bible. All of it against biblical values. And people are out here celebrating. You understand what I'm saying? What's the one song that he has? I forget the name. Something like basically talking to his aunt or something like that. I forget the name of the song actually. But in the song, his aunt is asking him, does he have a girlfriend? When he's going to get married, basically, type of stuff. And he's like, nah, I'm just out here banging all these broads. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm not getting married. No time, no way. What? That is completely against biblical values and scriptural values. And that's one of his softer songs. Like, that's a song that's not good, but compared to the rest of his catalog, it's not that bad. Okay? Let's be honest. Okay? Like, that is a serious problem. He's not Pitbull. with his party music, which is kind of interesting. Pitbull's a kind of interesting thing when it comes to the music industry. He sings about partying and all of this revelry and stuff like that, but he doesn't really get so depraved. You know what I'm saying? Pitbull doesn't really get that depraved when he talks about that stuff. So that's an interesting corollary right there. And we see this in every version of music, right? It's even made its way into the what do you call it? Country music style. We see them promoting this lewd, lascivious, depraved, debaucherous type of behavior, all types of behavior that's against God, that's against social cohesion. And then he's out here pushing all of this alphabet nonsense, gender bending trash garbage during the Super Bowl. And people were like, yay, that's what represents Puerto Rico. Gender bending nonsense represents Puerto Rico? The devil is a lie. Okay, that doesn't represent Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico just passed a bill that essentially gives babies personhood. They basically banned all abortion. Okay, that's amazing. That is a miracle. That is God working through the people. But you're telling me this guy that's out there promoting all of this gender bending nonsense, okay, and depravity represents Puerto Rico? I don't think so. I don't think that represents Puerto Rico at all. That doesn't represent the quality of Puerto Ricans that I have had engagements with in life. They've all been pretty solid. And I might have a little bit of an affinity for Puerto Ricans. I love me some Puerto Rican women. Okay. Some Dominicans too. Okay. I have a preference. That is my preference. A lot of my girlfriends have been Puerto Rican. So I don't see that in their culture at all. I don't see that as being a thing. But they're trying to push it out there. And they do this to black people too all the time. All the time. And they've been a lot of white people that they do this to too, but it's on a lesser extent. And it's not as, how do you say, in your face with it, you know? And it's gotten worse and worse over the years. Worse and worse and worse. Okay, you used to have like the old R&B love songs, and I use the term love songs loosely, but you used to have those, and those were kind of like, you know, you shouldn't really be singing stuff like that. You cheating on your husband and all of this and all of that. Like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? Like, that's crazy. Can we talk about that? Somebody said that there are worse rap lyrics than Bad Bunny. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The whole music industry is trash and depraved. And so is Hollywood. Hollywood is exactly the same. And the fact that you're comparing worse to worse is kind of crazy. That's where you stand. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, well, it's bad and it's really not good, but there's other stuff that's worse. Who's stupid? How is that where you stand? You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is a problem. This is a problem for our nation. We wonder why we have such an issue with the youth. And this is another reason why let's hit Nicki Minaj while we're here for a second, since everybody is in love with Nicki Minaj now because she says something nice about Trump. I can't stand on Nicki Minaj. She is an unrepentant harlot and she needs to be deported, okay, for corrupting the youth. And I stand on that. Cardi B is trash too, okay? And so are the rest of them. They're out here corrupting the youth, destroying our generations, and then we wonder why stuff is so jacked up in our country. It's crazy. It's crazy. And we can't talk about it at all, because when you talk about it, you might offend somebody. Well, guess what? Okay, what is it? John 15:18. Go look it up. I believe it's John 15:18. I'm paraphrasing. You know, don't worry about the world hating you. They hated me first. You know, that's what Jesus said. Because that's what this is. This is nothing but worldly, depraved behavior to pull people away from God the Father. And if we're going to succeed as a country and move forward in a positive direction, we need to turn to the Lord our Father and repent for all of the evil and nonsense that's going on in our country. all of the stuff that they're pushing in the news, all of the stuff they're pushing in the media, all of the depravity, all the gender bending nonsense, all of the stuff that is antithetical to the Christian religion, that goes against God, that goes against Jesus' teachings, all of that stuff, we need to repent as a nation if we're going to be able to succeed for the future. And if you're not Christian and you don't know Jesus Christ, okay, I encourage you, pray, ask Jesus to show you that he is real, ask God to show you he is real, and read the Bible, read the New Testament, okay? And may you have a revelation of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, okay? Because that is the only way that we move forward, is if we get back to our Christian roots as a nation. That's where we've gone wrong. That's where we've gone wrong. We've gotten too far away from Christianity and our Christian roots, and that's why depravity is okay. And they'll try to convince you, oh, well, I don't need to have, I don't need to be Christian, and because I don't need to be Christian, we shouldn't have anybody that has any Christian values saying that our country needs Christian values and stuff like that. What nonsense. Our country was founded on Christian values and Christian principles. What are you even talking about? This is very, very, very important. Somebody said something in the comments about their family is Jewish or whatever. Good for you. May you find Christ and recognize that he is, and accept him as your Lord and Savior, okay? Blessings to you. So this is a serious issue. We've gotten so far away from our founding principles and our founding values that everything is becoming okay. We have it now where in New York State that now they're going to be killing our elderly. They've got eldercide. Okay, they call it compassionate care or whatever they want to make it sound nice so that they can kill them, right? And they've got, it's called medically assisted induced death. It's crazy to kill the elders. They already kill the babies. They murder all the babies. We've got one of the largest amounts of abortions in the nation in New York State. I don't know if it's the number one or it's number two. But we kill all the babies already here. It's nothing but the baby sacrifice capital of the country outside of DC. Okay, I got some thoughts on that. That's for another show. We'll talk about what came out in the Epstein files later in the week. So make sure that you hit subscribe or follow if you're not following now. So as we're talking about this, now they're moving to kill our elders. Right? And they're like, oh, well, it's okay. Let me tell you what just happened last week. There was a girl, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the full information, so don't quote me on this, but this is what happened. There's a girl, I believe she won $2.4 million for her case about them doing gender transition surgery on her when she was a teen. So they cut off both of her healthy breasts. And now she sued them because she said they shouldn't have never done that. They shouldn't have never talked me into that. Like, I was just confused. And now my quality of life is diminished. And they put me on all of these hormones and I can never go back. And it's all destroyed my life and all of this and all of that. Poor young lady. I feel so bad for her. Like Chloe Cole, I feel bad for her too. Chloe Cole is a real good-looking lady. And she had all of those surgeries and hormones and stuff. So I know that she would be much better looking if she didn't have that done. You know, so whoever butchered her like that they need a behind whooping, okay, to say it nicely. But this happened right here in New York. They awarded her like $2.4 million. Go look it up to find the exact number. If you have the exact number, drop it in the comments. And this happened in New York. And they were awarded that in New York. So that's amazing to me. That's also probably going to start to open the floodgates for a lot of other lawsuits from these detransitioners. So it will be interesting to see that and how that goes. But we also have the fact that right now, they're trying to kill our elders. Now, you know they're not going to consult the elders good if we just see what they did to butcher the teens. You know? They don't consult mothers good when they go to have an abortion. They're just like, oh, let's kill you the baby. Like, are you serious? Like, no. Like, are you sure that this is the best course of action? Let me give you some alternatives. Maybe you don't want to do this. Maybe it's not necessary that you do this. Maybe you can consider adoption. Like, are you serious? So if they don't do that type of stuff with the youth, what do you think they're going to do to the elders? A lot of the people that have dementia and stuff like that, do you think that they're, oh, Lord have mercy. Whoo, blessings. Because I feel bad for anybody that's not completely sound of mind. Because I remember when my grandfather was in the hospital and they said it was dementia, but really it's insulin resistance issues and stuff like that. And they were trying to convince him to get all these different procedures and stuff done and take his organs, all types of craziness. And that happened right here where I live. So it's crazy because if they try to do this type of stuff now and convince our elders of all types of stuff, what do they do when they convince them that they should end their lives? That's not okay. And as I've said 1,000 times, when people say that, no, the government wouldn't do that. Oh, yes, they would. They would. They do. Look at Canada, our neighbor to the north, which this year is starting medically aided induced death for the teens. So that's going to come here next. That's going to be the next thing that they're going to do, because they're already killing the babies. Now they're going to kill the elders. Then they're going to go after the teens. It's part of the depopulation globalist agenda. And I know somebody talked about the globalist agenda up there earlier. If that was you, just give me a thumbs up or American flag if you're still online. So, but this is a serious problem. This is a serious problem. Somebody said, where is the evidence? Canada. That's where the evidence is. Go look at Canada and what they're doing and all the stories about medically aided death and all of the evil that's going on up there. I'll give you one story real quick because we got to get ready to get out of here. So there was this lady, she was a para-athlete. If you don't know what a para-athlete is, look it up, para-Olympian. So she had her chairlift in her house, chairlift broke, right? She called up because they've got socialized medicine. They said that the socialized medicine was going to take too long to get her a chairlift. It'd be out in like 18 to 24 months before she could even get an appointment to get the chairlift. So that's kind of crazy. So they said that her quality of life will be diminished. And because of that, they said that what has she considered to take herself out because her quality of life will be diminished, right? Like, how do you suggest that to somebody? That's crazy. So that's where your evidence is. Go look at what's going on in Canada. That's why it's bad. Anyway, for you guys listening on the radio, if you guys are online, hold tight. If you're listening on the radio, thank you for tuning into The Divide this week. We will be back next week, 2:30 to 4 p.m. You are listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. You guys be blessed and be well. And remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. I'll catch you later. All right, you guys. So this is serious, what's going on right now and what's being pushed, because it's not going to change. It's going to keep going forward. First, they came for the babies. Now they're coming for the elders. Then they're going to come for the teens. And do you know what it is in Canada with the medically aided induced death for the teens? I think I got a picture of the pamphlet somewhere. I'm going to try to put that on my Facebook and stuff at another time. I haven't posted it recently, but it says that any teens with emotional issues or that are having other issues with mental health issues, that they can use medically aided induced death in Canada. That's crazy. And I'm like, what type of teenager or young adult hasn't felt disconnected or out of sorts or had emotional issues? Like, isn't going through puberty having emotional issues? Like, that's crazy. Like, it's crazy. And this is a serious problem. But this is why we have to focus on sticking to principles and values and virtues that our nation was founded on, which were Christian values and principles. Since we've gotten away from the word of God, our country has been going down and down and down and down. And that really started in the 60s, 70s after Lyndon B. Johnson. And that's a whole nother conversation that we've had before. But it's a real problem. It's a real problem. So we need to actually say, hey, we need to pump the brakes on a lot of this stuff that's going on. Okay. Are we going in the right direction? Is this what's right for society? Because what a lot of people do is they see it as something that's based in emotionality. Okay. We don't need these emotional laws or these emotional things that are like striking a chord, like, oh, love is love. That's nonsense. Or like, oh, well, we're being compassionate. Also nonsense. Okay. All of these emotional based decisions. Oh, let all the illegal aliens come in. Emotion. Emotion. We can't take care of our own people. Aren't people out here on the left always crying we need child care and stuff like that? If we can't have child care for everybody, or we can't have health care for everybody, how you think we're going to take care of these other people from these other countries? Shouldn't we address those issues for our citizens before we go around trying to wipe everybody else's behind? Like, come on, you guys. But that's what I got for you guys. I want to leave you with this. Make sure that you start to get active, because it's going to be up to us. Nobody is coming to save us. And the way that you get active, go to some city council or town council meetings. Go to a county ledge meeting. Okay. Read some of the legislation that's being passed locally. Go to a school board meeting. Go to a fire district meeting. Whatever is interesting to you in local politics, get involved locally. We might not be able to change what's going on the federal level or in the presidency or whatever, but locally is where we can start to make a real difference. That's where we can make an impact. So I encourage you, if you are not a member of a registered party, like a Republican or a Democrat, then make sure that you're going to local policy meetings and stuff like that. If you are a member of the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, generally they have committees for your area that you can join and get more information on what's going on in local politics. They don't always have all the information, but that's a start. That's a start to get you on a footing to start to get involved. Because if we're not involved, we're not going to be able to make a difference that we want to see, because nobody is coming to save us. I love you all, and I'll catch you guys later. If you want to support the show, on the side is how you can donate. You can donate Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or down below if you're watching us vertically, you can donate like that. Y'all be blessed and be well. Share this out. Drop some comments, some thumbs up. I'll catch you later.